So we created one small interaction. Actually, we designed only the interface where we are presenting the data. So yesterday we designed this part. Am I right? So here what is the key point we learned is how to fetch data from API and present. To handle interaction, that means filtering, sorting, searching, adding, removing. To do that, now how we manage everything. For example, I click button, it should collect the item you're searching and show the result. I click the drop down and select one item, it should display those details. Generally, for that, you need to write events. We have to write events. By using events, we need to manage everything. So, in React, how we handle events. Already in JavaScript, you learned. In JavaScript, detailedly, you learned about event handling, event related all topics you are perfectly aware of them. Same we have to use here, but little change, right? I will give one simple overview of JavaScript events topic because you cannot manage React events if you are not perfect in JavaScript events. So I will give a overview of JavaScript events and we will implement that in React. We will see what is change. So what you should know about events. So today we are going to discuss about event binding. We are going to learn about the concept of event binding, how event binding works. Because the interactions are created by using event binding. And I am explaining all the event topics, what you learned in JavaScript and how to use in our React, right? So for that first point is you need to understand first important what is event and how you define event. What is the definition? How you define event, right? So what you learned in JavaScript about event actually, event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. Event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. It is a message sent by sender to its subscriber to notify the change. Actually, event follows a software design pattern called observer. Event follows one software design pattern called observer. Event uses a delegate mechanism. Delegate mechanism, which is function pointer mechanism, which is a function pointer. So generally, you learned this in JavaScript. What is event? How it works? How we define event? So event is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. So these are all JavaScript topics only. I'm just revising them for people who are not completely aware, because without this knowledge you can't manage in React. So I'm revising those topic here one more time. So let's see the point. What does this three lines mean? Right? Let's see. For example, suppose this is our, yeah. So this is our app. We are designing this app already. We are in that app. I will open some HTML page and show you. This is a general HTML page. Actually, in this page, we have a button insert and we have a script function insert click. And here on click, insert click. Actually, by seeing this, what majority people think about event is, we have a function called insert click, and when the button is clicked, that function is called. Am I right? We are calling the function on button click. That is not. Actually, we are not calling the function. We are pointing towards the function. That means event is not calling the function. It is pointing towards the function. So actually, this is called sender and this is called subscriber. When you click the button, what will happen is a sender sends a notification to the subscriber saying that button click happened. Then the subscriber will do the functionality. Sender notifies and subscriber will perform the functionality. That is the mechanism behind this. That means you are not calling the function, you are pointing towards the function. For example, I will show you. Suppose I am deleting this function. So there is no function called insert click. I will run this page. Now logic is very simple. The logic is you are calling a function which is not there. Then obviously it should show some error. What error it should show? It should show that I can't find insert click. There is no insert click because you are calling a function which is not there. Then obviously it should show error. But you can see here, when I run this, you can see there is no error here. How come it happened? Generally in programming, there is no function by the name and you are calling that function. It should show error. It should show that I am unable to find the function, but it is not showing error. Now, when I click on insert, you can see that now it shows an error saying that insert is not defined. Means it is not calling the function, it is pointing towards the function. Actually, event follows a communication pattern called observer. Observer is a software design pattern. We call it as communication pattern. Actually, event uses a mechanism called function pointer. That means it will not call the function, it will point towards the function. That's general. You will learn in JavaScript actually. So if anyone asks what is event, so we should say event is a trigger. It is a message sent by sender to its subscriber in order to notify the change. Actually, you are not calling the function, you are pointing towards the function. That means when the button is clicked, now it will verify is there any function by that name. It is unable to find a function by the name, then it will show error. So we are not calling the function, we are pointing towards the function. That's what actually the meaning. So we generally call this as what? Function pointer. That means syntactically, we have a function, some insert click. Generally, we call this as subscriber, and button on click. It is insert click. This is called as what? Sender. We call it as sender. Sender sender triggers a notification, and subscriber performs the functionality, performs the action. So sender will send a notification and subscriber will do the functionality. That is technical definition of event, how event actually works. So that is one basic point about event. Next, important, remember these are all JavaScript topics I am revising. Generally people learn all these in JavaScript itself. So another point is, what is event handler? What is event handler? Another important you should know. What is event handler? What is the concept of event handler and what is the role of event handler? For example, you see here we have a button. So can you tell me which event button is using currently? Which event button is using currently? Button is using click. On click is not event name. On click is not event name. Event name is only click. Click, change, blur, focus, mouse over, mouse down. These are event names. On click is not event name. What is on is, it is a handler which is used to attach event to this element. That means in JavaScript, you have a on method which is used to attach events to the elements. On click is not event name. Event name is click. On is a handler name. What is the role of handler? It is used to attach any event to an element. To any element, you can attach event in design. In design, you can do it by using which method? On. Without this also we can write event, which I will show you. Usually on click is not event. On is a handler, click is an event. So what is the job of handler? Job of handler is to attach event to element in design. In design, if you want to attach any event to any element, you have to use this handler. So event handler is very important to understand. So what is event handler? So it is used to configure an event for element in design. It is used to configure an event for element in design. JavaScript uses on as handler to configure events. JavaScript uses handler to configure events in design. So here click, change, blur, focus, all these are actually what events. On click, on change, on blur, like this. Event handlers. These are event handlers. They are not event. So we have event and we have event handler. So that is event and event handler. Next important is, what is event listener? What is event listener? We have an event handler and we have an event listener. So event handlers and event listeners. For example, here I will give one small concept: body on load, body load. So we have a function body load. Okay. On body load, I am creating a button called I am creating a button called button. I am creating a button and I will give the button name as delete. And I am adding this button to body. This is your JavaScript. I am adding the button to the body. So I created one button dynamically and added to the page. You can see the page is having two buttons. One button is designed, another button is created. Delete button is dynamically created. Now for this button, which is already in the design, we want to write a event function. What is it? Insert click is a function, document write inserted. Something like this we are writing. That means now insert button is in design. So what we have done, we attached one event handler and it is working. It is working fine. Then how you write event for this button? It is not in design. It is not in design. Then how do you write event for this? So what we do is we will add event listener to that button. We will add a event listener, and event listener is a function. It is asking what is event name. Event name is click. So on is not used. On is a handler. Click. On click, what to do? Functionality. Functionality is document dot write. It should say deleted something. That means now you see delete will work with deleted, insert will work with insert. So you cannot use a event handler every time. If any element is dynamically created, then how you write events for them? They are not in design. Then how do we write events? By using listeners, not by using handler. It's not only like that. Even if it is present, we can write dynamic events. For example, I have a button called update. We have update button and the button ID is btn update. So we don't want to write event for this button using a handler. Why? Because in real time projects, if you ask in real time projects which one is used, handlers or listeners, always recommended listeners only, no handler. In while learning JavaScript every day, you will learn on, click on, change and all, but in real time we never use them. It's not recommended to use them. Why? Because in real time we keep the design separate and the logic separate files. In design only design, in logic only logic. Now if you write some logic inside design, it is mess up. Means what you are doing, you are writing on click, insert click. That means this is a logic. It is a logic you written inside design. That's not good. In real world projects, extending the designs, modifying the designs will become difficult if there is some logic attached. So always in real world, what we do, all logic separate file, design separate file. We don't want anything related to logic inside the design. Then what we do, we don't write a handler. Then how to write event? On body load, what we will do, we will access document dot what, get element by id, what is it, btn update. To that we will add event listener. What is the event? Click. Click is the event. Okay, on click what you want do, some message, document dot write, some record updated, something like this we will give. That means now this time update button is in design, but it is not using a handler, it is using a listener. This delete button is not in design, it is created and it is using a listener. And this is in design, it is using a handler, right? So handlers, listeners are very important. So what is event listener? What is event listener? What you understood? Event listener is used to configure events for elements dynamically. What is advantage? Performance wise also better. Why? Because events are added only when they are used. If you are writing a event handler, they are loaded even before you use it. That's not good. Event listener will fire up only when you are using it. That improves the performance also. So technically, what is event listener? So it is a DOM technique of configuring events for elements dynamically. So it can define event with action. It can define event with action. It enables clean separation and lazy loading. And lazy. It is easy to extend, maintain, and test a page. So a page with event listeners. So syntactically, some button have an add event listener. So event and what action it should perform. So what is event? What is event handler? And what is event listener? Right. Next important is I will copy this just roughly for you, but this is all pure JavaScript. Huh? Generally, unfortunately, our JavaScript people are not this much aware of JavaScript. That's the reason we have to revise it. Right? Some JavaScript people means they don't know all these things. Right? So that's the reason we have to revise all these topic because they are very important for React interviews also. But these are pure JavaScript topics for events. What is event? What is handler? What is listener? Right? Next important you should know after understanding listener, you should know another point, that is what are event arguments. What are event arguments? Next important you should know about event arguments. Next important, what are event arguments? This is another very important concept. Actually, event arguments are used to carry the payload. Event arguments are used to carry the payload. Payload is nothing but the data carried from one location to another. From one location to another, we carry data. Actually, so JavaScript can handle two default arguments. We have two default arguments. One is this, another one is event. JavaScript can handle two default arguments. One is this, another one event. We have two default arguments, this and event. So this comprises of information relative to current element. So like what? Like ID, name, class name, value, href, src, depends on element, width, height, border, etc. All these things are present. This contains information relative to current element. Event comprises of information relative to current event. Like event related information will be like what? Event related information like client X, client Y, key code, char code, which key, shift key, control key, like this. All these are event related details. They are very, very important in future while working with events. So we have two default event arguments. One is this, another one is event. This and event are two default event arguments. So what is purpose of these event arguments? why they are important, all they are necessary to know. So here I will show examples when we implement in our React. Here just first point